a group that seemed to be a holdover, or I guess when the dinosaurs had been removed from the planet for this mammalian experiment. Some of them had been pulled underground to be kept safe. They're a remnant of the dinosaurs. They're proto-warm-blooded, and they look and move more like a bird than you would think of a reptile or a dinosaur. Real jerky, quick movements. Very fast. They're very fast. And most of them have some sort of feathers on them, like a plume, that are colorful. Some people think that this could be behind some of the Quetzalcoatl kind of feathered serpent stories from the Mayans. Could be. I'm not sure about that myself, but they do inhabit a lot of Central and South America. They've taken over a lot of areas, including some crystal caverns that these inner Earth groups used to use as libraries, and they lost access. And here's the ones we'd love to hate, the reptilians. People know more about them than just about any other race. But there are a lot of different types of reptilian types of beings. Some of them are rather short, like 3.5, 4 feet tall. They have a head shaped like the guy there on the right. That's kind of a gray alien kind of look. They kind of look like gray aliens. And a lot of people that have been abducted by them or have had experiences with them have thought that they were picked up by the Greys when it was actually this group. And of course, we have the tall, white reptilians that are the royalty. These beings they're incredibly telepathic. Like, I've interfaced with a number of different types of beings, but nothing that, and I hate to use the word, but it almost seemed like rape. They grab your mind, they force you to experience what they want you to experience, and it's a humiliating experience, and it drains you. A lot of these other beings, they are very give and take in their communications with you, and don't just take you over. A lot of these reptilian groups, they run joint bases with modern humans, and we've been working alongside with them for at least, the Americans, at least since the 50s, when, after Operation Paperclip, allowed the Germans to infiltrate the military-industrial complex and pretty much take it over. So, as a part of the inner Earth, I guess we're a part of the inner Earth now. We're setting up deep underground military bases all over the planet, under the ocean, very deep, and we're competing for territory with some of these older groups. A lot of the reason why they've been stating that they're putting all these bases in the ground is for continuity of government, which is a little ridiculous. That's the same reason that they have built these different bases on Mars. They state that they built these for continuity of species instead of continuity of government. If Earth was wiped out, they would have a genetic stock of humans to draw from. As I stated, all these unacknowledged projects go on. Human cloning has been going on for a long time. We supposedly didn't discover genetics until, was it 56, around that range? Well, we were working with non-terrestrials doing genetic experiments in the 30s and 40s. So this has been going on quite a bit longer than most of us would think, the genetic part and our involvement in it. We, of course, reverse engineer technology and do a lot of research and development. And they try to keep it below the area where they would be held accountable legally for what they do to a lot of the human guinea pigs. Everyone has probably seen this map, and what's interesting is that these maglev trains, they do run all over the planet, but there's a much older maglev train system that is non-terrestrial. It is larger, and we've accidentally cut into it, drilling holes a few times. And, you know, they run us out and tell us, don't come back. But there is a much larger underground tunnel network that the non-terrestrials use. Recently, I received a report that I wasn't sure about, but David Wilcock talked to Pete Peterson, one of his insiders, and he seemed to back it up. After the election, a lot of these bases, FEMA-type bases, were supposed to be turned over and to the next administration's leadership. A lot of these people refused to do so. They locked the doors and said they weren't coming out. So we sent in Marines. The Marines went down and took forever to break through all of the concrete, the rebar, this reinforced steel. And they were told, once they broke through, to give everyone in the base one opportunity to surrender. If they refused to surrender or responded violently, they were ordered to wipe out all inhabitants, to wipe out everybody. Unfortunately, they did not completely brief a lot of these Marines that they might run into non-terrestrial beings. So a lot of these guys, they were really freaking out. They had a lot of problems because they went in, it was bad enough that they were having to kill all these humans, but now they were face to face with 8-foot tall devils. And they were doing battle with them. Of course, we eventually, took the bases, but these soldiers, I've heard, they did not take it well, and they had not been recovering well from it. Talk about some of my lab experiences, and as I stated before, my lab, it stands for military abduction, and we're learning more and more about the programs. Everybody wants to lump them under MK Ultra or this or that. There are so many different types of programs that we really need to come up with a different term. My lab just doesn't seem to be accurate anymore. Once I was identified as an intuitive empath and brought into the MyLab program, when I was at school, they started picking me up in a white van and driving me for almost an hour to Fort Worth, the Carswell Air Force Base. That base has a lot of history going back to even Roswell. And of course, I would be taken with other kids. We would meet them. We would drive onto the base into a kind of a carpool area that was a hangar for just cars. We would get out, walk down a hall a little ways, and then take a large elevator deep into the ground, where we would come out, and there would be more hallways with a guy in front of the intersection of the hallways, and the elevator had a little card table that was checking IDs and making sure you were supposed to be there. Yeah, they had, and it didn't turn out that the base, the wing commander knew what was going on. I ended up talking to someone that served closely with him, and they didn't believe me, and then I described the base where I was driven, and they were shocked. The tunnels that I went to, they had been in them. They said they were they were built during the Cold War era, and they were shocked. At this point, this is when they started to acclimate us to extraterrestrials, and we're trying to deprogram this natural fight or flight response we have. And I haven't really seen that it can be totally deprogrammed. I mean, right now, if I'm not expecting a reptilian or one of these other beings to appear here, if one appears, I get overcome with a fight or flight response, and just about everyone does, especially if they don't look like what we would consider benevolent. We have a visceral reaction. They were trying to program that out of people as much as possible, and us as children especially. Well, they would put us in situations in the beginning to where they would give us virtual reality scenarios and then start introducing non-humans through that way, or we would come out of being under that type of technology, and when we went into the remote viewing session, or the augmented reality session, there would be like 3 or 4 guys sitting at a table. And then we would come out, and as they were unhooking us, you'd be looking around, and all of a sudden there would be a gray alien sitting at the table. And no one would say anything about it. They would just, get you all unhooked, and then you would walk out. And they started to acclimate us like that. Now, with this technology, it was virtual reality, but they were sending things to you bioneurally. There's a place in your back where all the nerves cross, kind of like where the 2 little dents are in your back. And they have these 2 nodes that stick out. You lay against it, and they stick against your back, and it will send data to and from your nervous system through those areas. So they could also, kind of like, I guess, in The Matrix, give you a college education or teach you about a certain technology very quickly using this technology, as well as use it to train you and profile you to see how you will react under different circumstances. They use a lot of trauma-based testing in those scenarios, a lot of times just to see how we would react, how much better of a personality profile they could draw up for us to use that information to know how to use us in the future.